So, David, this week, Amazon announced that its HQ2 sweepstakes had finished. And it turns out that there were two cities that won the supposed mega millions. Tell us which two cities won those.
Well, Long Island City, New York, come on down. You're the proud recipient of an Amazon facility. And also a city that I guess was called Crystal City, but that Amazon decided to rename National Landing as part of the deal. And the fact that they seemingly got to rebrand an entire city in Northern Virginia kind of speaks to the all-encompassing nature of these deals and the kind of almost anti-democratic measures and pieces of it that are contained therein.
I want to, being in New York, knowing Long Island City, I want to focus on that. But just for a moment, what the idea that a company would get the naming rights to a city in this day and age seems to be insane and almost make the case as to what is problematic about Amazon specifically, in terms of its size of a company and its power. Presumably there was no vote to change the name of the city by the citizens at all, was there?
Yeah, that certainly is crazy. What's crazy to me is sort of the base case here is that there is no universe in which Amazon is not going to have a presence in the New York City metro region and the Washington, D.C. metro region. Indeed, before making this announcement, Washington and New York already contain the largest concentration of Amazon employees outside of Seattle and the Bay Area. So there was no need to offer, a penny in a subsidy to bring Amazon into Washington or New York, where they have a vested interest in being. Washington, because Amazon has tons of government contracts, particularly with the Pentagon, which is right next door to Crystal City or National Landing or whatever you want to call it. And New York, because Amazon is heavily investing in its media and advertising businesses, and New York is a major center for both. So why would any city or state give money to Amazon to locate where they already have to be?
And let's add to that a little bit, too, because Amazon in Seattle has been under a tremendous amount of scrutiny because of its size relative to Seattle. They were responsible for rolling back, essentially, by more or less threatening the city council, getting them to roll back a tax that had been levied upon them and other large employers. But my understanding is that they have no interest in, community building in terms of a city. They don't want to have that level of responsibility. They don't want to have that level of scrutiny, which just adds to the argument that in many respects, Amazon needed Washington, D.C. and New York more than New York and Washington, D.C. needed Amazon.
Right. Now, you can make the best way to look at it is that New York City has a monopoly on New York City. There is no other New York City that Amazon can play off in order to engage in a bidding war, similar with Washington, D.C. Those places are what they are, and they are attractive to a company like Amazon on their own merits. And so it is just needless to try to lure a company like Amazon with when we break it down, we're talking about, according to Good Jobs First, which is really the best organization on these economic development subsidies, we're talking about $4.6 billion that's going to go to Amazon over a number of years from these two headquarters.
Okay. So all right. So they're getting $4.6 billion. Let's focus a little bit on New York because, I'm quite aware of Long Island City. I'm quite aware of how expensive the entire, not just, Manhattan, but, it is in these sort of like ever increasing concentric circles in which people are getting pushed out because it's so expensive to live in New York City. Long Island City is not some type of desert, as it were. We're not talking about empty farmland here. The Long Island City was, maybe underdeveloped 20 years ago, but this is a place that, and was one of the last places that people were going to get some relief for the incredibly expensive New York City real estate. That's over. So what is theoretically, from the perspective of somebody who might support this deal, why would you do it? Just put yourself in their shoes for a moment. We're giving Amazon in New York, state, city, something like $1.6 billion at a minimum, it appears, in terms of benefits.
Just to lay it down, the real number is at least $2.8 billion from New York.
And we should say that in the history of all these types of deals, the numbers basically run in two different directions. The number that the city or the state ends up giving goes up, and the number that they get back in economic activity goes down. That's basically what happens. Like 6 to 8 months after this thing is signed, somebody's going to write that story, right? And it's going to keep going that way. But let's just assume, take it at face value, a couple of $1 billion that we're giving this $1 trillion company to put themselves in the place that they wanted to go to do what they were already going to do, which is expand, right? Maybe you could argue if New York didn't do it, they'd bite the bullet and go to some other city, but maybe they wouldn't. But even if they would, what is the benefit to New York City?
Well, the claim benefit is that you bring in a large employer and you get tax revenue off of that, and you get economic activity that way. It should be said that most of the benefits that Amazon is going to get from New York for this deal are available to pretty much to any large employer. They are known as of right deals. They include programs that are available to other large employers, like the Excelsior program, which is this per job essentially cash payout that is given. There's something called the REAP program, which is for relocation assistance, that is given to any company's employees, or it's given to the company itself. If you add all of these up, I don't think it was the idea of any legislator that came up with these individual programs that they would be combined into one mega deal that would afford, one company to get $2.8 billion at least out of it. But that's what we're seeing. Now, defenders of the deal would say, well, the deal will pay off, right? It will, over time, the tax revenue that comes in will outweigh the money that's going out. But I feel like that just looks at things the wrong way. What if...
Well, David, wait a second. Let's take a break, because this is really the crux of the argument. Those programs existed. Theoretically, I, as a small business guy in New York City, I could apply to the Excelsior program. But the way I think you've really, this is the place for us to take a break, because the idea of aggregating all of these programs together in many respects defeats the point of these programs. But we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back, talking to David Dayen about the Amazon sweepstakes, where they sell lottery tickets and they win. We'll be right back. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.